always like, no, I run alone. I do not run with anybody. I must run alone. I hate running with people. Well, actually, it's really fun. So, yay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to OSA Backstage. Had to happen at some point, and it finally did. I got everything set up, and guess who forgot to hit record on the camera? Me. This is an audio-only episode. I'm just so sorry you missed the super pretty backdrop that was Sedona, Arizona. That's right, OSA Backstage was very far from the Holland Center this week. Serena was super bummed that she had to miss this one because we were with violinist and ultramarathon badass Sarah Cranor in Arizona to run the Vortex Ultramarathon experience. Sarah ran the 34-mile race. We ran the 21-miler. I conscripted my husband, Pat, both into the race and as my co-host. But we really wanted to talk with Sarah about this because she just jumped right into marathoning, as you'll hear. And she has attacked it with the same level of intensity as she's attacked the rest of her life as a freelancing Baroque violinist, but also, overall violinist. But she plays with so many different Baroque ensembles and chamber ensembles around the United States. She's awesome. We love having her in Omaha as a longtime violin sub. And spoiler, she's married to our former assistant conductor, Alejandro Gomez-Guillen. Alejandro was sick. He couldn't be there. I think if he had, it would have been one Alejandro versus 3 exhausted post-race runners. So it would have been really, really funny. Instead, you get something really fun, which I think is a great conversation about why we all enjoy this or what we get out of it, out of running, not just as runners, but also musicians. And how everybody is completely different, but you can still enjoy the sport all the same. There's pickle consumption. I'm being literal about that. Actual pickles, sorry in advance. There are birds, which are a lot more fun than the guy revving his engine multiple times during the recording, but we were in a backyard, and it was beautiful out, so we wanted to be outside. Sorry again about the no video. Sorry about the no Alejandro and no Serena, but I'm not sorry that we got this chance to talk with Sarah. Enjoy. Hi, friends.
Yay.
Welcome to a very special, very different episode of OSA Backstage. Sarah, would you
very
please...
far away from backstage.
Yes, very, very far. Serena wishes she could also be here in person, so Pat is my conscripted co-host today. Sarah, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Sarah. I play violin. I sub with Omaha Symphony pretty regularly.
Yay.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we are in a beautiful backyard. Pat and I crashed Sarah's ultramarathon.
Hardly crashed.
So, we told you we were going to do it months ago. And I think we need to start. You brought over pickle chips. So I'll get into it in a minute. But you brought over pickle chips because you say they help with post-race all the things. Can you explain that a little bit more?
They are salty.
Mm-hmm.
They have a nice tang.
Mm-hmm.
They're crunchy. So they're the polar opposite of everything you just ate since 7 a.m.
Yeah, great. And we'll talk about that in a second, too. Okay, excellent. Shall we start off?
I think we have to. Okay. Full disclosure, I did drink the juice earlier.
We're good enough friends, I think.
I think so.
I think we'll somehow live with this. All right. Excellent. So wait for everybody to have a pickle chip.
Running tradition here. You cannot run an ultra without these particular dill.
Well, no one told me that.
Brioche chips.
All right, prost everybody.
Cheers.
Okay. Oh my god. The moment that hit my tongue, I was like, I get it. Never mind. I'll stop complaining. Wow.
They're leaking, so we gotta eat them all.
Okay. So back up. And I apologize for pickle voice, but that's exactly right. Oh. Okay, darn you for being right. I will come back. Hang on.
Telling you the other thing.
I will come back to that. Okay. So Sarah, you've been a long time violin sub with us, but you've been running like marathons and long races for a long time. And so when we started our Omaha Symphony Run, Walk, and Mosey Club, which does exist, you were like, we knew you had to be a part of that immediately. How long have you been running, and at what point did the pickles come into play?
I saw my sister run an Ironman in 2018. And so I started like November 2018. I ran a marathon in May. And then a couple solo marathons during the pandemic.
All right.
Someone's having a great time revving their engine up there. And then a couple 50Ks, and then
were you
getting more into it, I guess.
Were you running prior to that, or did you build up to your first marathon from go? Was it like not running or just casually running to marathon? Was there anything in between?
Yeah. I guess I got...
That's phenomenal.
I ran a little bit in college. Like there was a 3-mile loop I liked to do. But I didn't like keep track or anything. But I did run a little bit in college. But that marathon was like watching my sister, super inspiring. I was actually playing the Louisville Ballet, and her race happened to be in town. So I played the ballet, and then I cheered for her the next day. And I was like, this is so cool. I'm going to run the marathon. And I did the run walk method. So the first thing I had to do was run a mile straight out the gate and like see what your time was. And it was very slow. And so then it makes this ratio of like how much you run to how much you walk, and actually did that for the first marathon. Like I walked the first marathon.
Okay. So what we did today was a lot of run walking. Pat ran it with me, and he was very kind, and he dealt with my body is shutting down. We will be walking for the foreseeable future at the end. But what was that for that first marathon? What was the run walking ratio for you?
Well, it turns out I did it wrong. You're supposed to like retest every couple of weeks because you get a lot faster, but I didn't do that. So I was still stuck in my like baby beginner ratio. So I think it was 3 minutes on, a minute off, or 5 minutes on, a minute off, something like that. So it was a lot of walking. And actually I was very courteous, and I moved to the side every time I was walking. So I ended up doing a whole extra mile in the marathon by doing that, because I ran in the middle and I would pass people and then I would walk, so I'd get out of the way. So anyways, don't do that. But then it actually, like, I did a decent number of road things, but then actually Alejandro got me really into trail racing. And then you kind of have to run walk anyway, just based on elevation. So it was like I did run the last marathon. I actually ran the marathon, but this is I like it better. Like I like how you have to adjust to whatever is being thrown at you. Like time goes out the window. You cannot compare course to course. It's like, I'm going to run this place on this day and see what happens. And then also like you get really, really beautiful places. So,
I mean, that's a huge reason why we wanted to do this one was Pat, I was running at college a lot for fun. And then I forced Pat to do it on occasion. And then as we kind of traded places as working adults. So I started lifting a lot more, and Pat started running, and now Pat primarily runs. And so never in our wildest dreams, though, did we even ever think about a marathon. I think we did the half marathon. We were like, that's good. We don't need to go any longer than this. This was painful enough. And then you said, well, I'm doing this ultra marathon in Sedona. I'm like, hold on, did you say Sedona? Then we looked it up and realized that there were shorter distances than the 34 miles that you did. So Pat and I did the 21 mile today. But okay, but I want to go back the fact that you were like, I did like a 3-mile loop, and then I immediately went to marathon. What was the most surprising part of that training for you besides the run walk method?
I guess I kind of knew it was going to happen, but the idea of like setting a goal that feels just borderline crazy, or like, is
just
this
borderline?
dumb?
Just borderline?
Maybe dumb, but am I going to do it? Yes. And then you do it. I don't know. I think that's so cool. So, yeah.
I mean, Pat got really into this is how we feel, and this is what you're supposed to. I ruined so many things this week. Okay. For example, the concept of carb loading. And, Pat's like, well, it's not really just like only eating carbs, just like 2 days before, just replacing more proteins and fats in your meals with carbs. And so I asked him what he wanted for dinner on Wednesday night, knowing that we were going to run this on Saturday morning. And he was like, oh, tacos would be good. So I could have sworn we had tortillas at home. So I get everything else we need for tacos, and then I'm almost done making it. I open the pantry and there's no tortillas. So it essentially was like a carbless.
On Wednesday, you got time.
With the exact opposite route. But then you really like to get into the science of it. What was the moment do you remember the moment you're like, okay, I guess we're doing this crazy thing, where you started to take it seriously?
Well, I mean, so yeah, the plan was to run with you kind of from the start, because, at that point, the longest run I had done was maybe 14 and a half just for fun on my own. And on those days when I would go over a half, it'd be like, okay, I could see like 16, maybe 18, but doing a 21, 22 miler was still something I hadn't done. And so, I mean, I more tried to, for this round, I guess, tried to up my mileage, but not focus on speed or a time. Since, I mean, I think today could have felt much more miserable had I gone out and tried to go at what was either my comfortable pace or what was my pushing pace. And I might not be sitting here. I might have a migraine and just be curled up over there.
But I went slow, and so you feel good.
So,
I mean, let's be honest, we had to go slow. I think you're absolutely right. The trail dictated what was possible, and there's for newbies in getting into this, because we haven't done a trail race, like we've only done pavement. And so for newbies, watching people like mountain goat their way up and down the mountain was terrifying. Super inspiring, but mostly terrifying, because I had already rolled my ankle a half dozen times. Pat's behind me. He's bashed his big toe into something unrecognizable. You've got, it rained. You texted us, like, you're about to see Arizona with more rain than I've seen the entire time we've been here. It rained and it snowed on our way to Sedona, so there's mud. And so I came into this race thinking it would just be the miles and the elevation that really got to me. But it was honestly, it was like the mud. It was the going downhill, weirdly enough, that was felt more precarious. And then just realizing every single step that you took had to be you couldn't really just like look around and enjoy the view. The view became a death trap. It was gorgeous. It was worth it. But you could have broken your poor little body.
Or fallen off the side of a mountain. Yeah.
But yet Alejandro introduced you to trail races and you were like, this is for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like either a place that you know really, really, really well. Like I did the Crested Butte 50 miler and it doesn't matter when. I don't remember when, but September. And it was all trails that I know extremely well. Like I grew up there. I know those trails really well. I'd never done them all in one day, all looped together like that, but that was super cool. It's like I knew exactly where I was and I had memories in all these places. Whereas like today, I've never run here. Yeah. I've run close, so I kept telling you, like, be ready for heat, be ready for rattlesnakes, bring a lot of salt. None of that was applicable because it snowed, but I had no idea what it would look like, or I just figured it'd be pretty.
It was very pretty, and there were definitely moments where it's like, this is an edge of a cliff. Okay.
That little slick rock thing that's like a foot wide. Yeah.
And I loved like there were trailheads like difficult, intermediate, and the intermediate was just like 5 feet up further toward the wall. But it's still like,
if you fall, you hit the other one. So you're good.
And you're almost like, well, thank God for cacti, because at least something will grab me, hopefully, if I go. Which was an interesting thing to be thankful for. So, do a lot of trails look like the one we ran today? Or is that just really like part of the country dependent?
I think the latter, although today it reminded me a little bit of Moab. In the like where the rock had washed down, it was kind of soft, like sandy, and like it's still rocks, but it's like rounded. Whereas my so far training experience a little further south in Arizona, everything is super, super jagged. So this reminded me more of Moab than Arizona, but also like kind of nothing can quite compare to itself. Like I trained in Flagstaff or Crested Butte, Colorado. So Flagstaff, Arizona, and Crested Butte, Colorado, because it was similar elevation, and so some of the vegetation was similar, and like that particular pine tree has a lot of roots that stick out. So dodging roots, I was thankful I had that practice, but it looked nothing like. So there's like some crossover, and like I would say getting more comfortable with the downhills when they're really, really steep. The worse the trail is, the better you get at that. And I'm not good at it, but watching someone who is really, really cool. It's like an art to itself.
Yes, very much. And you feel like it's like it has to be deliberate. Like, that they're very, very good at it, but it does just kind of look like woman decides to
stuntman just like flying down,
flying off the side.
So I want to ask you both something, because my schedule, deciding to run this race, I was like, I'm still only going to run once a week because that's what I have the time to do. Mm-hmm. I tried going to twice a week for literally 1 week, and my body was just like, absolutely not. We need the recovery time. You can't do this. Mm-hmm. But you both take such fun approaches and scientific approaches to it. Do you think any of that rabbit hole of research and implementing training cycles and trying stuff out, do you think any of that owes a debt of gratitude to deep diving a professional instrument?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, well, I want to say my mind has always maybe can work like that, but and there are certainly people who like my stepfather, who has way more knowledge, and are step siblings who do this professionally and use their bodies in much harder ways, and so I try to grab some of their knowledge and then what you find online, and then obviously you have to then apply it, what works to you and what doesn't, and I don't know, what is the adage of like, you're only supposed to increase your mileage by so much every week. And it's like, well, we're dealing with snow and sub-zero temperatures during this kind of like training block. And then you've got travel and you've got work. And so, my mileages were kind of all over the place. But it was trying to get a consistent, 2 or 3 month run up to this, and going to more of our more difficult parks and doing things that actually, for a shorter distance were harder, like much steeper than what we dealt with today. And so thankfully, the weather itself today would have been, I think, the thing that I just couldn't have prepared for this early on. And thankfully it was beautiful spring, Midwestern style weather. But yeah, I guess like, I try to be somewhat guided, and like you said, looking up different ways to carbo load or whatever and apply that. But
I guess my follow-up question is, and before I let you answer, Sarah, is like we spend so much of our time in the practice room, especially when you're preparing a specific piece or an audition list or something, where it's not the definition of insanity so much as like you're trying different techniques, you're approaching an excerpt a different way every single time possibly, or you're like gradually turning up the dial. But there is a degree of pain in doing that, because every time you practice something, it may not go the way you hope, or you make a brand new mistake, or you're turning up the tempo, and so it becomes that much harder. There's a level of like pain tolerance. I think that even though like maybe it's not physical, but it is like a mental pain tolerance. And I'm curious if you felt like it was natural for you to like, okay, so this week it's freezing, but I will put 5 layers on and make it work and go out in the snow.
Yeah. There were certainly times I didn't want to. And then, yeah, even if the mileage overall wasn't hard, like we go on these, again, more strenuous elevation levels, and if you can't compare that to running 13 miles on flat or whatever. So like, it's just a lot of listening to your body and figuring out what was good and how much time it needs to recover, and then hopefully feel stronger the next time you try to do something similar.
How about you?
I would say running has helped playing in some regards, in that like so far it's been like kind of the more miserable parts of the training are, the better the race. And I think that kind of translates to like mock auditions or some sort of like, you know, not ideal situation. And also like having run consistently for a little while now, like I know even if I have kind of a run that feels gross, I'm not like dramatically slower, even if I didn't have a great time. Or I like look at the stats and my heart rate is a little high, but like on the grand scheme of things, it looks kind of like any other run. And I think that translates to music in that like sometimes you feel like, wow, that was really like, it's really not going well. I feel like I'm not in control or whatever. And like, well, it's not probably that dramatic, but also the converse is true. Like if it feels amazing and you're like, I'm flying, I'm so fast. And you look down and you're like, oh, okay, well, not that fast, like a little bit faster.
Your Michael Scott approach is like, I'm fast, I'm very fast. Yeah, right.
No. And same in playing, like that's one thing I would like to get better at. And I think about a lot in running and playing, which I think about playing a lot while I'm running. So it works out well, but like, okay, I think I'm being super expressive. It's probably not that much. I think I'm really not doing so great. It's probably like everything is just smaller. So reminding myself to amplify the good. And then also I would say, because of running, I recently started to translate the like running motto, like nothing new on race day. Don't do anything on race day that you haven't done in training. Like no new layers, no new socks, no new nutrition, no new breakfast, no extra coffee, like all the things. Same in concert. And especially if it's like a kind of high pressure concert now, like say I'm directing my group, I will wear my clothes and my shoes in the dress rehearsal, even though I feel a little silly, frankly. But like I've had weird things happen, like my mascara dries my eyes out and suddenly my contacts are foggy, or like this particular pair of shoes doesn't turn my pedal the way I expect and it throws you off. So nothing new on race day, nothing new on concert day. I've kind of become a little neurotic.
But that's a great point that so when we're doing concert prep, it is like the idea of a dress rehearsal is that you are running the concert with just chances to tweak things, hopefully at the end of each piece, right? But then there's also you never get a real dry run of a concert. It will never, there's never like the vibe of, okay, you finish a piece and then you don't get to do anything about the piece you just played. You just have to buck up and move on to the next, no matter how well or not well it went. And there's also the energy side of it too. Like with any instrument, I think about brass a lot because obviously.
Yeah, I was saying, I did a bad job of relating anything to the instrument, but certainly like, if there's a strenuous piece on the program and it's a masterworks or whatever, something that you have a few days to recover, like, be, I guess, most ideal to play with your volume as you were to on a concert day early in the week. And if you need like a couple days to, like, especially if there's a double in the middle, you need to like kind of take that a little easy. And I think I remember maybe my first concert in Columbus, Indiana, it was like Trike 4 or something. And Tony Weichel was on second trombone and Sean McGee on bass. And I think Tony said something like, oh yeah, I told Bowden we'd probably be playing a little louder than we did in rehearsal. And it starts with the trumpet fanfare, and then Sean's the first one to enter in the trombone section. And you only have like, 3/8 notes before you start playing or something, but it's like, oh, okay, like, that's what we're going to do. And so, I don't know, there are little changes in the moment where you might be even more than you were ready to give earlier. But yes, there certainly is a pacing that needs to be understood.
Well, we have, right, and you can't ignore your body. And you have to as much control as you can possibly have. So like, okay, so even with the run today, we did the same thing. We packed the breakfast that we always eat. We went to the store to make sure that we had like the accoutrement we have, right? We Pat, it's almost time for another pickle. Pat made sure that we had clothes, and I should be trying everything out before race day, but it was very much like, all right, let's just Pat
do it once a week. Yeah.
Right. It's like, this is going to be what it is. And having the stress of the run, I think, came more in moments where I did not have control over things. Like, oh, I didn't fuel enough and now I get to reap the consequences. Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't have enough water, or I should have been like refueling with electrolytes instead of just playing. Like, moments where I could have done something that felt more in line with what I usually do. Instead, I was just like, meh. And then I watched it spiral out of control from there.
Well, but also I would follow up, like, if you compare your bass playing journey to your running journey, like, imagine your first, like, I don't know what equivalent to make, but like first big bass solo, like, there are things that are going to happen that have never happened before.
Oh, yeah.
And like,
yes.
Okay, think about when you're running, like I have definitely had a race where I couldn't consume any food, and it's like, how do you deal with that? Well, now I know how to deal with that. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, I don't play with a shoulder rest now for many reasons, but like I had a concert where my shoulder rest fell off. Like, how do you deal with that? Like,
right,
stuff's gonna happen. So right. That's kind of the fun of it too. Is like, okay, this is happening. How do I deal with it?
Yep.
How do I come back? But also that happens in live music too. I think the correlation is pretty cool, actually.
It is. It's not that I want anything wrong or wonky to happen during a concert, but it's live music for a reason. So the orchestra is coming on stage feeling one way. The audience comes in. We don't know where the audience has been. We don't know what like kind of mood they're in from go. Sometimes they're like with the Planets, they were just absolutely delighted from go, which mm-hmm. was wonderful. You don't always get that, because mm-hmm. sometimes you have a program where like nobody knows this music and they just need something they can control, and like their trepidation, I think, is their control, right? But sometimes it's fun when things just go a little unexpected. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite examples is the last time we did Chike 2 with Teddy Abrams. One night is like, it's in the last movement, it's right before the final presto, and someone had just smacked the gong and it was reverberating, but like right as they did that, someone's cell phone went off.
Oh no.
And so Teddy you're supposed to just like launch into the presto, and Teddy held that until it was gone. And so you like literally had the gong was actually fading completely from the hall, but the whole orchestra was just like, okay, and then took off like a horse on fire. And it was so good, and it was so exciting. And I know that poor person did not intend for their cell phone to go off, and I would really love if you would silence your cell phones. Please. The acoustics in the Holland are amazing. They are extraordinary. I promise, no matter how soft you think your phone actually is, we can hear it perfectly.
And your hourly watch beeps as well.
And your hourly watch beeps. We are so grateful that you are in the hall, but just know that the acoustics are working against you and are working very much in our favor. And I'm sorry for that. Yes, it's kind of fun when you have to troubleshoot, as long as you're still somewhat
recovered.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I did have a race. The first time I tried a 50 miler was out in Colorado, and the water, it was like a way higher snowpack. Anyways, it's a very long, boring story, but I got hypothermia. But I didn't know that's what it was, because we had a creek cross this creek that was supposed to be like thigh deep at most, was to the bottom of your chest.
I'm sorry, thigh deep at most.
Yeah, which there were ropes and there was safety, and but you had to do it 7 times, and the sun wasn't up yet. I knew that. I was prepared, but it was just higher than it was supposed to be. And I went out a little too fast, and I was pretty nervous, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong as we started up this big ascent, and I couldn't troubleshoot my way out of it because I literally couldn't tell what was happening. And people were passing me like, "Are you okay? Is it that altitude?" I'm like, "No, I live here." This is fine. No, it turns out it was hypothermia, but I couldn't realize that until way later when I couldn't stop shivering when they were finally warming me up. They were amazing. The volunteers were incredible. Got me down. I'm fine. Totally fine. I freaked my mom out for a little while, but it's okay. But I couldn't troubleshoot my way out. So, like, riding that line in running, whereas, like, in live music, we don't want it to crash and burn, but also no one gets hurt. So,
knock on wood.
Well, yes.
Knock on.
Well, batons sometimes go weird places. Like, I've heard a story of it piercing someone's ear.
No.
So none of that, but.
I think it's time for another pickle.
Do it.
Yes, batons do. I in fact we had a conductor who did Walton 1 with us who was wonderful, and it was amazing. And he definitely lost his baton in rehearsal and went sailing by my head in the session. Oh my god! The record should show that Sarah offered to bring these over, and I was like, I don't know if I want to eat just pickles.
But now you want to use those pickles.
I'm so glad I'm eating pickles.
Grillo. Grillo, I'm not sure. Classic dill.
Which we should explain. So one of the things about race day, you were saying that the joke is that ultramarathons are food contests as opposed to running contests. So that's because essentially, like, you're constantly eating to keep your energy up. The problem is most of the products geared towards runners who are trying to literally eat and run at the same time to varying degrees of success are sweet, because sugar is the thing that metabolizes the quickest, which gives you energy. And so, like, you get to a point where if you ever have to see the word goo again or eat something with sugar, you just want to throw something. So you're absolutely right. Pickles are. I'm so sorry I doubted the pickle.
I mean, you had to experience it. So.
Oh, our friend's back. Okay, so now I want to go back to the training, because it's been fun to have you come sub in Omaha with us as we were preparing for this run, because we would do training runs. Like, we would meet you. So Sarah is already so much, so like her mileage was already so much further ahead of ours, that Sarah would run like 12. And the engine does sound good. Sarah would run like 12 miles by herself, and then we would join for like the last 7 or the last 10. You know, we would tag in, and I was always amazed, one, that you managed to, like, I'm not gonna lie, training runs by myself, they are lonely, especially the long distances, because there's nobody there to keep you moving forward. You just have to keep doing it by yourself. So I was always amazed that you were, like, in such a positive place by the time that we got up to you. How do you combat that loneliness, or is it just, or do you look forward to it? Is it time for yourself? Like,
some of both. And there's an ultra runner that I really admire, Courtney Dwelter, who talks a lot about like intuitive training in terms of mental push. Like, I can tell when I've hit the hard part of a training block when I have mental resistance to do it. But with any run, there's a part where you're bored and a part where you really don't want to be there, and parts that you love it. But I listen to music. That helps a lot. And actually, you guys are the only people I've ever run with. I'm always like, no, I run alone. I do not run with anybody. I must run alone. I hate running with people. Well, actually, it's really fun. So, yay. And my pace before I meet you is like fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow. And then I meet you and it's like, it's pretty cool. But I have very carefully curated playlists. Like, what mood am I in right now? And, like, if it's a long run, I like to hit like a really big, huge work of classical music. And then a lot of pop, and today I listened to a lot of Ian Munsick country and like some Rameau, and it's really cool.
I'm sorry,
Hungarian Baroque.
Let's just go back. So we went from country to Rameau.
You need variety.
You need variety.
Yep.
To Hungarian.
There's this cool Hungarian Baroque. I should know the name of it before I say it. I think the Rost manuscript, something like that. It's an R word with Telemann. If I'm wrong, You know.
We'll look it up.
Someone will
We'll look it up.
in the comments.
We'll put it in the video.
There's a really cool CD of music surrounding that manuscript. It was just recently found, and I love that CD. And then some remote, like a pastiche opera, and I listened to Kevin Putt's The Time for Three.
Nice.
And,
Contact, yep.
Yep. And then the Golihoff with Yo-Yo Ma and Eric Nicholson and Black Motets. And
That was all today.
yeah.
Sarah was writing. How long did it take you? Or,
I think like 7.5.
so
Something like that.
a lot of time for a lot of good music.
Yeah, it was good. I didn't put headphones on until 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it was like, okay, just keep the variety.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
At that point, did the pack kind of separate out enough?
Honestly, at that point, my ears were warm enough to take off my headband, so my headphones fit. There was no like grand plan to it.
Yeah, we definitely thought he was going to be a thing this weekend, and it turned out it was, I didn't bring my gloves, and that would have been good to start off with. It's in the 30s. Okay. So all of this music, all the time. Do you ever pick tempo music, or is it just mood? Because my coworkers have been teasing me relentlessly. I was using a metronome, and then it fell on. I had a training room where everything went wrong, and like 4 things went wrong within a half a mile of each other, and one of them was the demise of my metronome, which I'm very bad at. I tend to rush when I'm nervous and playing by myself, so I feel like this is right on brand. But I have a really hard time regulating pushing my pace without just flat out sprinting. And so the metronome was great because I found a bass pace, and then I could just like up it, by literally a beat per minute, and then I could work on that and then up it. And then if I was driving anybody else crazy, well, I was going to be past them in a few seconds anyway. And so they could leave me to my clicks and my beeps and my bops. But I definitely could not have used it today because the terrain was so all over the place. But do you ever pick music based on tempo?
No, there are a couple songs that are. No, with one exception. I have one playlist that's like, you just are so over it, you just want to scream. It's like, it has a cute little picture in my phone. It's like, when the going gets tough, you play this playlist, and those are matched to my cadence. But again, it doesn't totally matter in the trail. I do best when I'm not thinking about my cadence, actually. But Alejandro, by contrast, if the music doesn't fit his cadence, he makes weird subdivisions, or like of course, like 3 against 5, or like really bizarre things to keep his mind occupied. So that's one technique, I guess.
He and I might be. I've never done the 3 against 5, but he and I might be similar, because if I can't have my metronome, I'm counting the entire time, because that dictates everything from when does my water bottle move from this hand to this hand, and when do I start walking and drive my husband crazy. And it's just nice. Alejandro was actually the one who, in a pre-concert talk once, he was like, oh yes, counting. I love to subdivide everything in 3. I find that makes life so much easier. And ever since then, it's like, oh yeah, like that triplet cadence feels, I'm just going to keep going with that. That feels pretty good.
So it sounds like your mind is very active. I actually like my long runs, going back to your earlier question, for like daydreaming or planning, or like sometimes refuting arguments. So like, well, I could have said that, and then she would have said this. Or like just fixing things, like I don't, know the trajectory of this concert. I'll think it through. Or like, that's when I problem solve, and that's when I don't know, sort of like meditation in a way. Yes,
I will agree that running, if I'm not hyper vigilant about something, running's a really great time to problem solve, because there's something about that movement that lets things unspool in a way that they can't if you're just like, walking is the same way. Like if I go for a walk, I find that whether it's a writing thing, whether it's like a programming thing, I find the answer the moment I leave the house and I start going. The problem is like, do I have my phone so I can write down? Yes, I will admit it's nice to have those moments, but I can't daydream because then I lose my pace.
Hmm.
So the metronome kind of helped with that, but then I was cluing in. It's like, okay, well then what point do I go up? The neuroticism works because it keeps me occupied. I did, when I was in grad school though, I used running as a way to review my grad recital music. So it's like, okay, if I could, if I could sing through the whole piece and if I could map out fingerings, then I had it memorized because my teacher, okay, so everyone says concertos should be memorized and sonatas don't need to be. But I walked into a master class with the Bach third Gamba Sonata in G minor, and Hurst basically pulled the music off the stand. He's like, "You're gonna play it from memory." It's like the third movement, right? And he's like, then he turns to the class and goes, "You're gonna see something you never see. You're gonna see a whole Gamba Sonata played by memory." What are you doing? But so and it was fine. It was terrifying. It was fine, but it was. The runs after that were like, okay, can I literally play through this whole thing as I run? You do not listen to anything at all as you run.
I mean, I'm curious, like, how I would do with it. But yeah, I mean, I certainly have music playing through my head probably 90% of the time, I guess. And so that's just kind of what's going on. Or, actually today there was shockingly little bird sounds as there are right now, but up in Omaha, it seems like there's just the wind blowing through trees or animals and just relaxing. And I like I said, maybe I would benefit certainly for faster tempos to have some adrenaline going with some rock music or something, but never tried.
So speaking of music, how do you both? Like I said, I run once a week. That is what I can handle. But how do you both handle having time to literally to practice? And Sarah, you lead and are part of so many groups that play in so many different places that your schedule looks completely different week to week and sometimes midweek. So how do you balance training and prep, and then how your body feels? Or is your body used to the running, so that's not as much of a consideration?
Well, the nice thing about freelance is there's a decent amount of downtime. Like, there's never more than a double in a day. So, like, there's usually time to run. And, like, I have learned by mistake not to put the long run on, like, a really big day. Like, that was a bad idea. And duh. But I've had a couple... like, oops, that was silly. But yeah, I kind of make my own training plans, like kind of mileage by week based. And then I actually really like the nerdy side. Like, I get my planner out and I'm like, okay, this week I'm here, so I will put my long run this day because there's just a dress rehearsal in the night and I can always take a nap if I need to, and then like just slot everything in, and then you can run anywhere. Well, some places don't have enough sidewalks or bike paths, so that can be annoying, but mostly it's just a really great way to get to know a place. And like, they're like favorite parts to run in places that I go pretty regularly, which I love. And then the part that I need to continue to get better about is strength training. That's a lot harder when you're on the road, especially if you're in a place without a car and there's not like a gym. So I have resistance bands and these little like slider plates things that fit really easily in my suitcase, but you can't take free weights. So trying to find the balance. Like, when I'm home, gym is great, but yeah, I could be better about that. But it's like nice to slot in what I'm gonna do running wise, and then not that everything else revolves around that, but like if that is fixed, then that's the point I can structure everything else, like practice and food and all that.
Do you feel like getting a good training session in helps with your playing overall?
Totally. Yeah. Totally. And especially because I'm not like lifting huge weights or anything, I'm in no danger of hurting my hands or anything. I had a friend who was really into rock climbing. She's also a fabulous violinist, and she had to back off on the rock climbing. Like, fortunately, running is a sport that's not an issue. However, if it's going to be 4 hours of standing on concrete, that's not great as a runner. So like,
Yeah, and you're playing.
Yeah.
You play in a number of Baroque ensembles, and that
And we
is,
stand.
and yep, chamber.
yeah,
ensemble.
there was one day we stood for 7 hours, broken up in 2 chunks, and like normally that's fine, but I'd also run really far that day. I wasn't very happy that day, but it was fine. I kept thinking like, okay, well, the thing about people say about ultra running is like the more time on feet, the better. Like stand as much as you can because it's good for your training. So it's like, well, this is good for my training, even though I'm not happy about it right now. But the music was great, so it's fine. Yeah.
And I know you like, if you get in a workout of any kind, that can really.
Yeah, I mean, so the reason I guess I got more into running since last fall or late summer was because my solo was coming up, and I found over, the years that certainly any press overhead is not good for my breathing. Like I already carry, probably carry enough tension in my back anyway, but then holding the trombone like this, and so I just kind of gave up any sort of free weights, and it's in some ways nice to focus on something and not try to do like all these other elements and see like real progress, and at the expense of like sure my strength is way down, but that's
I can be the strong woman in our relationship.
right, but yeah, I certainly, even if it's only a half hour run or 40 minutes, like that completely changes my breathing for the better, and certainly takes stress away and things. So yeah, it's nice to just feel like you're kind of on autopilot or boosted in some way for something later in the day.
Nice. Okay. We are all, this has been lovely. We all need to eat at least one more pickle, and then we need to go find food, because now that I'm not running actively, my stomach is like, hi, hello.
It's time.
It's time. Usually I ask the question, what instrument, if you had 30 unfettered, unconsequenced minutes on stage, what instrument would you pick? But I think for today, let's change that a little bit. If you could run anywhere, like they would just like if a trail could magically appear and you could run anywhere, where would you want that to go?
I don't know. Somewhere I don't even know exists. Like some beautiful new place that I get to discover. Something with mountains. That much I know. And maybe no rattlesnakes.
No
Not a huge fan.
Great.
Yeah, that's my answer.
Oh boy. Does it have to be on Earth? I mean, you're getting my brain thinking it could be outer space. With this new discovery of life out there, possibly. I don't know. I mean, today was pretty good. So I don't know. It seems like any place with mountains is going to be a pretty solid score.
I'm going to tell a story. We got to the end of this race, and Pat, the whole for weeks, ever since we got the graph of what the elevation was going to look like, which looked terrifying, Pat kept saying, well, don't worry, at mile 14, it's all downhill. And so we hit a point, I want to say in like mile 17, 18 range, where it did start going back uphill. And so I said, this elevation is rude, because if you're going to run with, Pat and I apparently have very different approaches to being exhausted and pushing through discomfort. And so my go-to is I complain, because then I feel better. And Pat's response to that was, oh, come on, our driveway is steeper than this. So yes, I can definitely see that if we keep doing fun races, that mountains will be in our future, and I need to buck up, get ready for more elevation. But thank you both so very much. Thank you, Sarah Cranor.
Hey.
You're badass. 34 miles.
Awesome,
I mean,
guys.
it was awesome today. I'm so very tired, but it's so worth it. And I think we all found this because it gives us something outside of music, but undoubtedly all the time we have spent with instruments in our hands has made it has changed it. It's new. So on that note, we have one more pickle you're going to suffer through, or you can skip ahead. That's the beauty of podcasts. We're going to have one more pickle, friends. And then I'm hoping that pizza will be in our future.
Yes.
2 pickles. Oh,
Pizza sounds delightful.
cool. This has been OSA Backstage. Thanks, friends.